Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a simple bag out of a fat quarter. Now, a fat quarter is 1/4 metre, but instead of measuring up from the bottom of the fabric 1/4 metre and cutting it, meaning you get a long thin strip, they measure halfway across the fabric and then 1/2 metre up, so that you get something that looks like this. So we're going to make a really simple bag, and the first thing we need to do is to open our fabric up. Make sure if you've got a pattern on it that the pattern is up the right way. So this is Dumbo fabric, and actually his pattern is all up one way, so we're going to put it so that it's all up one way. First thing we're going to do is we are going to cut along the top line here, preferably making sure it's straight. So just going to fold it in half, square off your corners, okay, and then checking a second time that we've got it up the right way. Like to measure once, cut, measure twice, cut once, something like that anyway. And then you're going to get your ruler and you're just going to cut. You can use a pair of scissors for this, just use this because it's easier, all the way along there. And then while you're playing with this small piece of fabric that you've got, you're just going to cut. You've got it in half, so you're just going to cut up here to give you 2 strips. Okay, these are going to make your handles. So you've got 2 strips, pop those to one side. And then you've got your Dumbo bag or your fat quarter bag. So very simply, the first thing we're going to do, lay it face down as I have. I'm just going to turn over about 1 centimetre at the top, and you're just going to pin it all the way along. And this is going to be your top hem of your bag. It doesn't need to be huge, it's just to stop it from fraying. There we go, and then 1 or 2 more pins in this end, and you can just finger crease that so that you know that it's going to be straight. Okay, now it's really important when you get to using the sewing machine that although you've got this pinned, you make sure that you take those pins out before you put your piece of fabric that's going in under the needle, because if you go over one of these pins with a needle, it can break, it can flick up into your eye, and you don't want that. Okay, so just to double check that we've got that even, we're just going to put these 2 corners together and these 2 corners together. Yeah, okay, so you know that your hem is nice and even because your fabric's still the same length. Okay, so just before we go to the sewing machine for the first time, we're going to take our small pieces and we're going to fold them in half, because again we want some nice neat little handles. So fold it in half and just pin along. What we're going to do is sew along this hem, and then we're going to turn that inside out and you'll end up with a handle. Always pin, it's so easy for it to slip. Also gives you a chance to double check that you've got everything the right way round. Okay, 1 more in there, 1 more in there. Okay, so we're going to go to the sewing machine and you're just going to have it on a straight stitch. Okay, so I don't know what yours is like, but this is just a straight stitch on mine. And then we're going to pop it underneath. Now, ideally, you need to find yourself a mark. So I'm going to use this. Do you see where this meets, where that sort of white bit meets the metal bit of the foot? So that's going to be my 1/4 inch measure. I'm just going to put you back up here. All right, so you put your needle in, your fabric under rather, put your presser foot, so this is a presser foot, you put that down, and what that's going to do is it's going to hold the fabric together help it to feed through the machine. And then nice and slow, we're just going to start. Now, like I said, always take your pins out before your needle gets anywhere near them. Try and keep this straight by lining it up with that mark that you've decided to use. Pin out. There you go. Oopsie, you've got your first handle. That was just me knocking the ruler off. There you go. So you've just got one nice long stretch along there, and we can turn that inside out. Don't know if you can see that. Okay, and we'll go with the other one as well. Taking your pins out, keeping it nice and straight, lined up here. Going all the way along, just stopping it at the end. Now, some people will say to you, always do a backwards and a forwards at the end of anything you're stitching to make sure that it doesn't unravel, but actually with this you don't need to, because this is going to be attached to the bag. So we've done our two handles. Just check you can actually see those. Lovely. And then we're going to pop this one through now, and this is the top hem, if you remember, of our bag. So again, making sure that you've got that mark that you're watching to make sure the edge of your fabric here lines up all the time. Just going to stop that while we take the pin out. Now, you might have a foot pedal. The harder you press on that, the faster you're going to go. So have a bit of a practice on an old tea towel or something, or an old sheet or a pillowcase, just to get the understanding of how fast and how hard you need to push that. You can use anything for sewing. I use sheets, I use pillowcases, lots of duvet covers, obviously my fat quarters, but you can use pretty much anything. And what this project shows you is just the very basics of doing a hem, putting some handles in place. Okay, so we've got that. And now all we're going to do is fold this in half, and we're going to line the top corners up where you've just hemmed. Always line your top corners up, because they're the parts that need to be lined up, if you see what I mean. If the bottom doesn't line up very well once you've stitched it, that's fine, because that's going to be inside the bag. But as you can see, you just need to make sure that you're lined up properly at the top. Again, we're going to pin. Okay, pin at the top. Actually, I'm going to pin the other way around, because we're going to go through the sewing machine this way. So always go through with the bulk of your fabric to the left, to the outside. So let's just line those up again. Also make sure that your pins are in the right direction to take them out as you're sewing. Just give that a bit of a smooth down. You might want to iron your fabric first, but I don't iron anything. Okay, and we're pinning along the edge here. And then we're going to turn it around, and we're going to pin along the bottom as well, because we're going to do both of these sides in one go. All right. So there you go. You've got your bag in half now. It's inside out. So when you fold it, make sure you fold it inside out. Okay. Get these going. Oops. Need between 1/4 of an inch and about 1/2 centimetre when you're doing your hems. You do want a decent amount of room, because otherwise, if the fabric starts to fray, it will very quickly, you will lose your lose your stitching, because if it frays on this side and it's too close, you just end up with a hole in your fabric. So we're going to go to about 1/2 centimetre from the end, and then you're going to drop your needle down. Now my machine's got one of these. You might find that you just need to turn the knob at the side. Then you lift your presser foot, you turn your fabric around, line it up so that it's nice and straight, and off you go again. And you can see these two bits don't quite line up, but that doesn't matter because they're going to be inside the bag. As long as your stitching is straight, that's not a problem. It takes a bit of practice to get it to go straight because you do have to adjust it. That needle will want to pull it everywhere, but you just keep a hold of it, as I am, with your fingers flat, not close to your needle, and you should be okay. So we've got our hem there. We've done those stitches. Okay, and now what we've got is 2 inside out handles and your inside out bag. So we want to turn everything the right way in. Now this is a bit of a fiddle, but you'll get there in the end. Bear with me because sometimes they go really easily and sometimes they don't. So perfect. So what we're going to do once we've turned all these inside out is literally just attach the handles to the bags, and that is it. That's your bag done. It's nothing fancy, nice straight seams, and a really, really simple little project. You can use this for Halloween or for your books for school or whatever you fancy, really. But for the turning inside out, it's about a 15-minute project once you've had a go at it a couple of times. So turning inside out is a real fiddle. Okay, so we've got that. You might want to press it with an iron, but like I said, I don't press anything. You're going to fold it or press it, finger press it, so that that seam is down the back of your handle. Okay, you could have it on the side if you wanted to, so that either side has no seam on it, but I prefer to have it in the middle at the back. Okay, so we're going to turn the other one inside out. The bag itself is far, far easier to turn. You just literally put your hand inside and pull it out. And you can use a chopstick if you want. I just don't happen to have one here to hand. This is quite a good way as well. If you can get your finger into it and then you can just push it through. That works quite well. You will find it gets a bit crinkly though. So, okay, that one was a lot quicker, wasn't it? Okay, so again, we're going to press that down, finger press it. Don't need to be getting the iron out. Finger press that down till it's nice and flat. Pop that with your other one. Okay, and then like I said, all you're going to do with this one is turn it inside out and make sure you just push those corners out properly. Okay, so they're nice and pointy. There you go. So you've got your bag and you've got your handles, and you're just going to fold this bag in half. Now it can be tempting just to use this middle seam, but actually, as you can see, that's not halfway at the moment. So we're going to fold it in half and finger press so you get a little mark there. And these handles need to go with the seam side facing inwards, halfway between the edge and this middle mark. So about there, and then we're going to pin that. Try not to stab yourself. Okay, and then same with the other. Try not to twist this. So when you turn it, you need to make sure that you're going halfway, but you haven't turned this, so you haven't twisted it like that, because then you'll see your seam on the outside. Okay, so making sure that it's nice and flat and it goes halfway in between the outside and the middle. Okay, flip it over and we're going to use this one exactly the same. But this time it's easier because you just line it up with the one that's already there. So a bit of a pin in there, pin in there, and then just your final couple of stitches to hold those in place. So go back over here. you can take this bit off when you're doing a bag, because it just makes it easier to do these handles. So again, press a foot down, straight across, take your pin out. Right, this time when we stop, we're going to put our needle down, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to turn the bag all the way around. Just make sure that you don't accidentally sew the bag shut. I'm going to go back, and that means you've got a nice secure handle, so it doesn't just break or the stitching doesn't just come undone. Okay, one, two, just make sure those are nice and straight. Needle down, turn it all around, like down, and that's going through both layers so that you've got your handle sewn nicely on there. All right, and then the other side. Try and line it up with that original stitching if you can, just to make it look a little bit neater. Let's drop that down and find out what's happened. Oh, it's all right. This has just got caught around the... Nothing to worry about. It was just pulling slightly on the cotton. Okay, so turn it around. And back we go. Last one. Oh, excuse me. Okay, and then we're going across here. We'll take that out. Needle down. Needle. Press the foot back down. Back along there. And there you go. All that's left now is to just cut off any little bits of cotton. There we go. What else have we got? We've got another little bit here. That's it. Beautiful. And there it is. There's your bag. Now it's probably going to take you chaps a little bit longer to do that, because I've been sewing for a good many years, but take your time, pause it if you need to so that you can catch up, rewind it, have a little look, and if you're really stuck, just message me and I can see what I can do to help. All right, I hope you enjoy it. Sewing is, I love sewing. It's so rewarding and you can make all sorts of things. And once you've done this one, we shall find another one and we can do a bit more sewing. All right, there you go.